Last but not least, Ajit.
Thank you, Bilal. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Abdul Rauf, for hosting this wonderful event, and thank you for the dignitaries and other leaders who are here. Mr. Ali, thank you for showing up here. I know those flights are long. Now, many of you don't know me, and as Bilal said, that it's only in the last little while that we've gotten to know each other. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that when we choose to make a contribution to our community, we can do it in a number of ways. We can be with a not-for-profit organization. We can play our role individually as individual citizens. We can stand for elected office, or as I chose to do, be in the heart of the beast. That's the public service. As I keep saying, there are two worlds if you want to make change, policy change. There are two worlds. The world of the elected representatives, extremely important, but equally important, the world of the public service. Because theoretically, and that's the way it should be, the public service is a public servant, a seva, somebody who does seva. And so those ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਉੱਚਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ. We don't get to be known, and that's fine, because we work behind the scenes. We work for the betterment of the community by providing good, solid advice, analysis, and recommendations. And once the elected officials make their decisions, then we dutifully carry that out. And that's the social contract, that's the obligation between elected officials and the public servants. Well, public servants don't lead, but they are dutiful servants in carrying out the will of the people as expressed through the elected officials. So when I chose to go with the public service, and I spent 34 years with the federal government in Ottawa, several years with the government of Ontario, where I set up the Workplace Health and Safety Agency, and I lived in Oakville, so I've had the chance to live in different cities. With the government of Ottawa, I was tasked by one of my favorite, I shouldn't say this, but I think one of the most
just say it.
progressive. One of the most progressive leaders, and that was Alan Rock. He tasked me. He and his deputy tasked me to negotiate new legal aid agreements between the provinces, the territories, and the federal government at a time when Paul Martin reduced the budget and balanced the budget on the basis of cutting back the transfers. And that's still a sore point as we experience through the issues related to the health transfers. So I was tasked to bring this about with less money than before. And the approach that I took was, I said, I'm going to get out of the ivory tower of Ottawa and go to each of the provincial capitals and meet with each of the individuals who's running that program to see what their needs are, what they want, how do they see a new agreement. So that was one thing. The other thing I did was I invited the provinces and the territories to select one individual from among them who could be my co-chair. Up to that point, my predecessors have been the ones who were chairing the meetings and holding the pen. And so that was, to me, a sign of faith to show that there's a willingness to share power. And power sharing comes with risks, but it comes with enormous rewards. And I think that's one of the things that's missing from what we have today in the council, which is just a straight approach of my way or the highway. But we have to engage the community, we have to engage different voices, especially the voices that we don't agree with, the ones that kind of are tough to deal with. Those are the ones we have to engage. And so as a result of that kind of approach, we were able to bring new legal aid agreements within a 6-month time frame. And normally it would take 2 years to solve that problem. And so that's been my experience, is bringing diverse interests and positions together based on what's common, what's good for the national interest in that case, and at the council level, it would be obviously focusing on what's in the best interest of the local community. Now, I came when I was 10 and settled in Surrey, and I've seen Surrey change from a farming community, as Mike well knows the benefits of that, to one that's now a mix, urban and rural and agricultural environment. And as Gordie has said earlier, all of those are assets that we need to bring together for the benefit of the residents of Surrey. So when I came, there was extreme amount of, well, those who probably came at the same time, I'm talking about the late 50s, would have experienced discrimination once you got here. And so that was one of my motivating factors after graduating from university to get into the human rights field. So one of the first human rights investigators to determine what the law would look like and to give life to the human rights code in British Columbia. And that passion has always followed me throughout my career. It's always been, are we doing something that's for the benefit of the community or not? I should also mention that, like Sargy, my maternal grandfather came to Canada in 1907. But of course, after that, the government at the time shut the door for immigration from Asia, and particularly India, and what was later to become, what would have been Pakistan later on. So those were difficult times for those members of our community who were here before us. And we're thankful now that we have the protection of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Canadian Human Rights Act, the Canadian Bill of Rights, and all the mechanisms that are in place that allow us to participate in this society as equals. And so to have a sense of belonging as we go forward and make a better life for our kids and our grandkids. And believe me, I have two wonderful grandkids, and I want to make sure that I leave this world better for them than the one I found. I should also mention that I come from a large family, and two of my siblings, an older brother and an older sister, unfortunately the older brother has passed away, both were born in Rawalpindi. So you could say that my family is basically international. So we know what that feels like at the heart. And we've never had this sense of division. It's, to us, it's unity. It's that the common good that unites us, that leads us forward. I'm going to pick up just as a closing comment on Bilal's point about celebrity. We don't want politicians who are celebrities. And as Sargy has said in her closing comments, we are the servants of the people. And I keep reminding myself, I was raised as a Sikh, and I'm one of my favorite gurus is Nanak. And I keep reminding in my family and my circle of friends, one of his favorite sayings was, "Kau Nanak sab teri badiyai, koi naam na jaane mera." Let the Creator be exalted, but may no one remember my name. That's public service, and I think that's something that we have to keep in mind as we go forward. So thank you very much for having us here and giving us the time to say a few words.